I noticed the transfer at 2:17. In the morning, $90,000 gone, moved out of my primary checking account into another account. I didn't recognize. At first I assumed it was a mistake. A bank error, maybe fraud. But then I saw the authorization name attached to the transfer. My son, Daniel Whitaker. The same son who had sat across from me at my kitchen table 3 weeks earlier and said, "Dad, you're getting older. Let me help manage your finances." That was the moment my stomach dropped, because suddenly the past 3 weeks started making sense. The paperwork, the questions, the way he kept asking about my investments, and the way he insisted. I add him to my bank account just in case something happened. Something had happened, all right. Before I tell you what I discovered next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Or just type, "I'm here." I read every single comment, and it helps this story reach people who might need to hear it. Because if I hadn't caught that transfer when I did, I might have lost everything. My name is Michael Whitaker. I'm 68 years old. I spent 35 years working as a civil engineer, designing bridges across Washington state, the Tacoma Narrows expansion, the Everett Overpass, a dozen municipal infrastructure projects. I've built things meant to last decades, strong foundations, solid structures, but the one thing I thought was strongest of all, my family, turned out to be the most fragile structure in my life. My wife Linda passed away 2 years ago, pancreatic cancer, 18 months from diagnosis to funeral. Fast, cruel. The kind of disease that steals people piece by piece. When she died, the house felt too quiet, too empty. 30-8 years of marriage suddenly reduced to photographs and memories. So when my son Daniel started visiting more often, I welcomed it. At first, I thought he was simply trying to help, bringing groceries, fixing things around the house, checking in. He'd sit at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, and say things like, "You shouldn't be handling everything alone, Dad. Let me take some stress off your shoulders." That's what family is for, and honestly, it felt good after Linda died. Loneliness creeps in like cold air through a cracked window. Slow, subtle. You don't notice it until the whole room feels empty. Daniel filled that silence at least. I thought he did. 3 weeks before that $90,000 transfer, Daniel came over on a Sunday afternoon. He had paperwork with him, bank forms, authorization documents, just precautionary stuff, he said. If something happens and you end up in the hospital, someone needs access to your accounts. It sounded reasonable, responsible even. I remember asking him one question. "This doesn't give you control, right?" He laughed. "Of course not, Dad. Just access in emergencies." Signed. Because he was my son. Because I trusted him. Because Linda would have trusted him too. That decision nearly cost me my entire retirement. When I saw the $90,000 transfer that night, I called the bank immediately. Fraud department. The representative pulled up my account. Her tone shifted almost instantly. "Sir, this transfer was authorized." "Authorized by who?" A pause. Then she said it. "Daniel Whitaker." My chest tightened. "Where did the money go?" She read the destination account. Another bank. Private investment account. Primary holder Daniel. Whitaker secondary holder, Jessica Whitaker. My daughter dash and dash law. I hung up the phone and sat there in the dark. This kitchen, the only light coming from my laptop screen. $90,000. My savings, the money. Linda and I spent decades building, moved without a word, without permission, without even telling me. And suddenly, I remembered something my neighbor, Karen, had said a week earlier, something that hadn't made sense at the time. Karen. Delgado has lived next door since 2011, 70 years old, retired school principal, sharp as a razor blade, the kind of woman who notices everything happening on the street. 2 weeks earlier, she had knocked on my door holding a casserole dish. "Thought you might like some lasagna," she said. Then she looked past me into the house. "Your son here again today?" I nodded. "Yeah, he's helping with paperwork." Karen's eyes narrowed slightly. "What kind of paperwork?" "Financial stuff." She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me, then quietly said, "Michael, be careful." I laughed it off, but she didn't smile. I've seen this before, she said. People get older, sometimes family members start making decisions for them. That's not Daniel, I told her. He's just helping. Karen nodded slowly, but before leaving, she said something that stuck in my mind. Just make sure the help goes both ways. That night, after seeing the transfer, I called Daniel, straight to voicemail. I tried again, no answer. Then a text message came through. Everything okay, Dad? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Did you move $90,000 out of my account? 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, he replied. Yeah, investment opportunity. I was going to tell you. My hand shook as I typed back. You were going to tell me after moving $90,000? Another pause, then relax, Dad. It's for your benefit. That sentence chilled me more than anything else. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just reassurance. Like, I'm supposed to be grateful. The next morning, I drove to my bank, the branch manager. Printed my account history. That's when I discovered something even worse. The $90,000. Wasn't the first transfer, it was the fourth. 5 days later, $20,000 last week. And now, $90,000 total moved out of my account in 3 weeks. $137,000. I sat there staring at the numbers, feeling like the ground beneath me had shifted. Did I authorize any of these? I asked. The manager shook her head. Technically, your son did. He's listed as an authorized user. How much control does that give him? The manager hesitated, then quietly said, full transfer authority. My stomach dropped, meaning he can legally move money. When I got home, Kieran was outside watering her roses. She looked up as I stepped out of the car. One glance at my face and she knew something was wrong. What happened? I told her everything. The transfers, the bank authorization, the missing money. Karen didn't look surprised, just sad, Michael. I need to show you something. She walked into her house and came back holding her phone. Last week, your son and daughter-in-law were here while you were out here, in your house. My heart skipped. How do you know that? Karen turned her phone toward me and pressed play. The video was recorded from her upstairs window, my living room, Daniel, and Jessica. Sitting at my dining table, papers spread everywhere. Jessica leaned forward and said, something that made my blood run cold. Once we move the rest of the money, we'll file the incapacity paperwork. Daniel nodded. The doctor already agreed.
Mild cognitive decline.
Jessica smiled. Perfect. My entire body went numb because in that moment I realized something terrifying. They weren't just taking my money. They were planning to take my life. I just stared at Karen's phone, watching my son and daughter-in-law sitting in my living room. Like they owned the place. Jessica's voice came through the recording again. Once we move the rest of the money, we'll file the incapacity paperwork. Daniel nodded calmly. The doctor already agreed. Mild cognitive decline. Jessica smiled. Perfect. Karen paused the video. The silence between us felt heavy, like the air had thickened. Michael, she said gently, I'm so sorry. I didn't answer, because suddenly every conversation I'd had with Daniel over the past month started playing in my head. Every question, every suggestion, every little comment about my memory. And now it all made sense. 3 weeks earlier, Daniel had said something strange. We were sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. He had looked at me carefully and said, Dad, do you ever forget things lately? I laughed. Daniel. Of course I forget things, but he kept pushing, like appointments, bills, names, no more than usual. Then he said something that felt innocent at the time. Maybe you should see a doctor, just to be safe. A week later, he scheduled an appointment for me with a neurologist, Dr. Leonard Mills, a man I had never met before. At the appointment, the doctor asked strange questions, memory tests, word recall, pattern recognition. It felt unnecessary, almost forced, but now, watching Karen's video, I understood that appointment wasn't for my health. It was evidence. Evidence they planned to use to prove I was mentally incompetent. Karen touched my arm. Michael, there's more. My stomach tightened. More. She nodded slowly. I recorded them 2 different days. She pressed play on another video. This one was from later in the evening. The lighting in my house was dim. Daniel was standing near my desk, Jessica flipping through documents. Then Daniel said something that made my chest tighten. "How much is everything worth again?" Jessica answered casually. "House is around $850,000. Investments are another $1.3 million. Retirement accounts maybe $600,000. Daniel whistled softly. "Almost $3 million. Jessica smiled. "And once you're conservator, it's all under your control." Daniel leaned back in the chair. "What about my dad noticing?" Jessica shrugged. "By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll already be filed." And then she said the sentence that shattered something inside me. "Old people never fight these things." Karen stopped the video. I felt sick. Not just angry, not just betrayed, but humiliated, because my own son had sat at my table in disgust. It's my life like it was a business transaction. "Do you still have the videos?" asked quietly. Karen nodded. "I saved everything. Can you send them to me?" "Already did." My phone buzzed. 2 video files. I stared at them like they were explosives, because in a way, they were evidence, proof, the kind that could destroy a family forever. I didn't go inside my house that night. I couldn't. If Daniel and Jessica were still coming there when I was out, I needed them to think everything was normal. So instead, I drove to a small hotel 20 minutes away, checked in under my middle name. Something about the situation made me paranoid. Maybe it should have, because that night, I began to realize just how deep their plan might go. I sat on the hotel bed watching Karen's videos over and over, listening to every word, analyzing every detail, trying to understand how long this had been happening. Then I opened my laptop and logged into my bank accounts again. This time I looked deeper. Transaction. History authorization logs, user access changes. That's when I found something even worse. Daniel had added Jessica as an authorized user on 2 accounts, without telling me. Date. Added 4 weeks ago, which meant the planning had started at least a month earlier, maybe longer. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Dad, we need to talk." I stared at the text, then replied, "About the money?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Finally, his response came. "It's an investment opportunity. You'll thank me later." My jaw tightened. Investment. That's the word people use when they want something to sound responsible. But $137,000 moved without permission was an investment. It was theft. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I made a list. 3 columns on a piece of hotel stationery. Column 1. Evidence. Karen's videos, bank transfers, authorization documents. Doctor appointment. Column 2. People I could trust. Karen, maybe my attorney, possibly my grandson. Tyler, Daniel's son. Tyler had always been closer to me than Daniel realized. Column 3. What they plan to do, file incapacity paperwork, declare me mentally incompetent. Gain conservatorship. Control my assets. Once a conservator is appointed, they control everything. Bank, accounts, property, medical decisions, even where you live. Meaning, they could legally put me in a care facility, and I would have almost no power to stop it. At 6:30 that morning, I made the first call. My lawyer, Thomas Reeves. We had worked together for years handling property taxes and estate planning. 72 years old. Sharp mind, didn't trust anyone easily. When he answered, I said one sentence. "Tom, I think my son is trying to steal my life." There was a pause. Then he said quietly, "Come to my office." 2 hours later, I sat across from him in a leather chair. Tom watched both videos without interrupting. Then he leaned back slowly. "Well," he said, "that's ambitious." "Ambitious?" I asked. He nodded. "They're building a conservatorship case." I felt my stomach twist, so they can legally control everything. Exactly. Tom frowned. If the neurologist filed a report suggesting cognitive decline, it strengthens their case. But I'm not declining. I know that. He leaned forward. But the court won't know that yet. What do we do? I asked. Tom folded his hands together. We get ahead of them. How? First, you get an independent medical evaluation immediately. A doctor they can't influence. Second, we freeze your accounts. Third, he looked at the screen again. We gather more evidence. Because right now, we have suspicion. What we need, he tapped the table, is confession. That afternoon, I did exactly what Tom recommended. Scheduled a cognitive evaluation with a neuropsychologist he trusted, Dr. Elaine Parker. 4 hours of tests, memory recall, problem solving, pattern recognition, mathematical reasoning. When we finished, she looked almost offended. Michael, she said, there's nothing wrong with you. Relief washed through me, but someone wrote that other evaluation. She nodded slowly. Then someone lied. That night I returned home for the first time since discovering the videos. Everything looked normal. Furniture in place, lights off, quiet house, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene. And I realized something important. If Daniel and Jessica believed their plan was working, they would keep talking, planning, discussing things inside my house. Which meant if I installed cameras, I might catch them admitting everything. So at 2 a.m. that night, I made the decision that would eventually destroy their entire plan. I turned my own house into a surveillance system. I didn't sleep that night, not even close. Because once you realize someone you trust might be trying to take everything from you, your mind doesn't slow down, it races. Every memory becomes suspicious. Every conversation suddenly sounds different. So at 2 in the morning, I walked through my house with a small toolkit and 4 wireless cameras, bought years earlier for home security. I had never bothered installing them. Until now, one went in the living room, hidden inside a bookshelf. Another went above the kitchen cabinets. A third inside the hallway smoke detector, and the fourth is in my home office. The one room Daniel had been spending a lot of time in lately. The room where I kept my safe. Each camera streamed directly to a private cloud account on my laptop. Password protected, encrypted. If Daniel or Jessica came back into my house when I wasn't there, I would see everything, and this time, be ready. For the next few days, nothing happened. Life went on as if nothing was wrong. Daniel texted occasionally. Normal messages. How are you feeling today, Dad? Did you look at that investment opportunity I mentioned? Jessica and I might stop by later this week, answered casually.friendly.com, pretending I knew nothing, because Tom had warned me about something important. People like this, my lawyer said, they panic when they think they've been exposed. But if they believe their plan is still working, they get careless. So I waited and I watched. 3 days later, the first camera notification appeared. I was at the grocery store when my phone buzzed. Motion detected, living room camera, my pulse jumped. I opened the camera feed immediately. Daniel was inside my house. Jessica, standing beside him, they thought, was still out running errands. Jessica walked around slowly, studying the room. Then she sat down at the dining table. Daniel pulled out a folder. Did the doctor send the report? She asked. Daniel nodded, double quotes. Yeah. What does it say? Mild cognitive impairment. Jessica smiled. Perfect. The word echoed in my ears. Perfect. Daniel sat down across from her. Once we file the paperwork, how long until the court approves it? Jessica flipped through the documents. 3 to 4 weeks, and after that, you become legal conservator? Daniel leaned back in the chair, and then Jessica tapped the table. Then everything becomes yours to manage. My hands tightened around my phone because that word, manage, was exactly the same word Daniel had used when he asked to help with my bank accounts. Jessica continued talking. And the best part is, he won't even understand what's happening. Daniel hesitated, just slightly. He might fight it. Jessica shook her head. Not if the doctor says he's declining, by the time he hires a lawyer. She smiled coldly. It'll already be too late. Daniel laughed softly, not nervous, not uncertain, just amused. And that laugh hurt more than anything else. But then something happened. The kitchen camera triggered. Another person had entered the house. A young man, tall, dark hair. My grandson Tyler. Daniel looked up. "Hey, kid," Tyler frowned. "What's going on here?" Jessica immediately changed her tone. Sweet, gentle, double quotes, "Oh, honey, we're just helping your grandfather organize some things." Tyler looked around the room. Something about his expression told me he wasn't convinced. "Why are you moving his money?" he asked. Daniel stiffened slightly. "We're protecting it from what?" "From bad decisions." Tyler crossed his arms. "Grandpa's smarter than both of you." Jessica forced a smile. "Sweetheart, you don't understand." "No," Tyler said quietly. "I think I do." The room went silent. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Daniel stood up. "Listen, Tyler," he said calmly. "This is adult stuff. Your grandfather's getting older. He needs help." Tyler shook his head slowly. "Or maybe you just want his money." The tension in the room snapped. Daniel's voice hardened. "Watch your mouth." Tyler didn't back down. "I saw the transfers, Dad." My heart skipped. Daniel froze. "What transfers?" "The ones you moved into your account." Jessica's smile disappeared. "How did you see that?" she asked. Tyler shrugged. "You left the banking page open on the laptop last week." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "Tyler, this is complicated now," Tyler said. "It's not. You're stealing from him." Jessica stepped forward. "Enough." She looked at Tyler carefully. "You're not going to say anything to him?" Tyler laughed. "Oh, I will. First chance I get." Daniel stepped closer to his son. "If you ruin this?" Tyler stared straight at him. "You already ruined it." Then he walked out, slamming the front door behind him. I sat there staring at the screen, heart pounding, because everything had just changed. Before that moment, I thought I had lost my entire family, but now I knew something important. Tyler wasn't part of the plan, and maybe, just maybe, I had an ally. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "Hello?" A familiar voice spoke quietly. "Grandpa, Tyler." "Yeah, kid," I said. "I saw everything." There was a long silence on the other end. "You saw it?" "Yes." Another pause. Then Tyler said something that nearly broke my heart. "I'm sorry, I didn't know they were doing this." My throat tightened. "I know. They told me you were forgetting things. They said you were getting sick." "I'm not sick, I know that now." Tyler took a deep breath. "What do we do?" I looked at the camera footage still playing on my laptop. Daniel and Jessica arguing quietly in the living room. "They just gave us something we needed," said asterisk. "Please subscribe to channel."